Do you want to blow up on Wattpad? Like, really think about it, do you? Hey fresties, welcome back to the final episode of Wattpad Wednesdays. Now, I know I've said that like I'm not gonna make any more Wattpad related content on here, but actually the Wattpad Wednesdays may continue on in shorts every now and again if I have something to say. But anyways, this series started out with a video that I made about brutal Wattpad truth, so I figure let's go back to the beginning, let's kind of do a little callback and talk about the good things about Wattpad, but also the not so good things. I just want to say, blowing up on Wattpad, I use that term very lightly. I'm not that popular on Wattpad. My most popular book doesn't even have 300,000 reads yet, so take it as you want. There's a lot of people with a lot more reads than I have. But I also started out on Wattpad with literally no audience for years. So I feel like I've come a long way, and if I was looking at my Wattpad account now as a 15-year-old, I would be like, oh, like she has a lot of followers. She has a lot of reads on her story. So let's start off with a pro. If you blow up on Wattpad, you're getting a lot of feedback. The good feedback, compliments, that will boost your confidence so much. And even if it's not actual comments and it's just seeing the rise in numbers of reads or seeing votes, it is a confidence booster. And if the feedback is more leaning towards the side of criticism, even though sometimes it might be hard to take, it helps you improve your writing. So that is undoubtedly a positive. On the flip side, sometimes criticism is not really criticism at all, and it's just straight up hate comments. Or sometimes it's not really a hate comment, but it's just somebody totally misinterpreting the way that you have written a character, etc., etc., and it can get so annoying. Okay, and I'm not trying to sound ungrateful, but sometimes you get a reader who just has a really bad take. You want to kind of argue with them, but at the same time you're like, well, I'm real grateful for this person reading my story, but you could not have read it more incorrectly. There's always that con of having to walk that line and decide, do I want to defend my character here? Do I want to defend my writing here? Or do I want to just ignore it and be grateful that somebody took the time to actually read my story and, you know, I guess care about it enough to leave a comment? Another pro of blowing up, so to speak, is it's fun and it's reassuring. This is kind of like related to the first pro, but seeing the growth, the numbers, it's just fun. It's nice to see how people react to something that you've written. That's like a very big benefit of Wattpad, is that you're getting feedback in real time, and it's just kind of fun to see like what stories do better than others that you've written. Personally, my least favorite story that I've written is my most popular, so I don't know if I would say that that's fun. That kind of relates to the next con, which is you can sometimes feel a pressure to write for your audience rather than yourself. As you grow in audience, you get a feel for what they like to see, what they like to read. You start to kind of convince yourself that that's what you should be writing, even if it's not necessarily what you want to be writing. That I don't think is very unique to Wattpad. I think that just kind of is what it's like to be a writer, because even if you're self-published or traditionally published, you know, most of the time you're settling down into one genre. Okay, as I'm going over this list of pros, I'm realizing that a lot of the pros kind of boil down to the same thing, but the third one that I had written down is that it can make you feel proud. As writers, I think we're all quite familiar with imposter syndrome. It's very easy to feel like everything you've written is trash. It's easy to feel like it's a totally unrealistic career choice if that's what you're after. Blowing up on Wattpad makes you feel like you are doing something right. It makes you understand that your writing is obviously not trash, because there are people out there who enjoy it. There are people out there who spend their time to read it, to comment on it. And like the last pro, as you see the numbers grow, bars, it just makes you feel like less of a fraud. It helps you feel like it's not totally unrealistic to think that you could be an author for a career. I was embarrassed of writing at first. I didn't want to share it with anybody who I knew in real life, because I don't know. I thought that it was embarrassing. Looking back on it, it's hard to even really understand why, but as my account grew and as I got more reads, I was able to shake off that feeling and eventually talk about it with people, because I knew at that point that there were people out there who enjoyed it. You know, how can you really be ashamed of creating something that you know somebody out there has enjoyed? The next con, I'm sure if you've been here before, you knew I was going to talk about this. When you blow up on Wattpad, your account, your DMs, your stories, the comments section, it all becomes a hub for self-advertisement. My favorite thing. We all know here how much I hate when people promote their works on other people's work, because it's just rude. And the more reads that your story has, the more followers your account has, the more likely this is going to happen, because people see it as, oh, this person has views, so if somebody checks their comments, they're gonna see me promoting my story and they're gonna click on it. They're not gonna. At least I'm not gonna. I have never seen somebody else self-advertise on somebody's work and been like, ooh, that must be a great story, let me read it. My brain doesn't work that way, and personally I don't think anybody's does. The same thing goes for getting a PM on Wattpad and somebody just sending the link to their story. A lot of times, I've said this before, people don't even say hi, they don't even say anything at all, they just send a link to their story. What makes you think that that is going to entice me to read your story? So if you find that as annoying as I do, be prepared to click the delete button on some comments on your stories and your message board. Anyways, let's move on to another pro. The second to last pro is that it's a great place to build an audience. And when you blow up, you're gonna have more chances of more people following you on your writing journey wherever it may go. I plan to self-publish, hopefully sooner rather than later. Having that audience that I've built on Wattpad, if a fourth of my followers were to buy my book on Amazon, that would be 1,000 people from my Wattpad audience that buy my book on Amazon. Like, that's crazy. Now, granted, I still think that that's probably a bit of an overestimation, but the fact is, the more you blow up, the more people are gonna be more likely to, that was a lot of mores, follow you on your writing journey and check out if you move on from Wattpad and decide to self-publish or even traditionally publish. You may have some people who like your writing enough to stick with it and want to, you know, help you out in your career by purchasing your work someday. Okay, the last con that I wrote down is something that I never expected to happen to me, but it did: plagiarism. Thankfully, because I have this larger audience, somebody in my audience actually caught this for me. Otherwise, I probably never would have known. They found my plagiarized story somehow. I don't know if it was like recommended to them or what, but they found it, they told me about it, I reported it, it got taken down like the next day. Wattpad is very good at that sort of thing. They take that seriously. The thing that really blew my mind was that they plagiarized my 𝘴𝘰𝘤𝘪𝘢 winning story. Like, if you're gonna plagiarize one of my books, wouldn't you try to pick one that's more under the radar, that people would be less likely to find out about it being plagiarized? That was really odd to me. Also, the other thing that really was weird was that they like changed the first few paragraphs of the story, but that was it. Everything else after was just copy and pasted. Very odd. I don't really know what the hope was for that, what they expected to gain from that, because it's not their story. So like, even if it got like millions of readers and like thousands and thousands of positive comments, what do you gain from that? Because you know it's not yours. So what, like, I don't know. Very odd to me. I didn't understand the purpose, and it was just a very uncomfortable situation. I think it's quite rare. Obviously, the bigger the audience you have, the more likely somebody is to find out, like, if it's plagiarized. You get what I'm saying, I hope. Just be aware that it could happen. And the last pro that I have written down is opportunity. There are a lot of opportunities that come from posting on Wattpad. There has been a lot of success stories from Wattpad. People want to make fun of it a lot of the time. People want to put it down. They talk about these stories that have become movies and TV shows, etc., as if they are less than, but at the end of the day, they are movies, they are TV shows, These people have big checks in the bank, I'm sure. They have Netflix deals, etc., and thousands, millions of people out there are enjoying these people's stories. Obviously, everybody's allowed to have an opinion, and if you want to criticize the plot, the characters, etc., it's cool, but you can't deny it's a success. Now that Wattpad has its books division, there's a higher chance of getting published with that. They have a lot of like partnerships with different like movie studios, stuff like that. So the more popular that your book gets, the more eyes from Wattpad and these partnerships that they have are gonna be on it, and the more likely it may be that your story is the next after or the next The Kissing Booth. So that is my list of pros and cons of blowing up on Wattpad. Personally, for me, the pros heavily outweigh the cons, obviously, because I'm still on Wattpad. And I think that most of the cons are just things that you have to deal with as a writer in general, no matter where you're posting or publishing. It's just stuff that you're gonna have to deal with to some extent. I hope you'll stick around for all the other writing related videos on my channel, and maybe I will see you in the next video. We're almost into April, so Camp Nano Vlogs, it's almost time. Okay, bye. Has my lipstick been like crooked this whole time? I think so.